Hi there. Hi. I know, there's no music. It's like the show didn't start, but it's me. And I just wanted to check in on you, see how you're doing. I know probably if you're like me, you're dealing with a lot of anxiety, a weird kind, as well as a sense of despair and concern, fear, worry, all of those things because of the return of Donald Trump and all that goes along with it. But I just wanted to tell you, you're not alone. It's hard. I think everybody, a lot of folks are struggling just dealing with the moral dilemma that it seems like every day is. How could anyone be okay with what he said or what he did to the point that they would put him in power and make him our leader? Yeah, that's the daily monologue that a lot of us deal with, and sometimes more than a few times. But I am here this morning just as a reminder that not only are you not alone in feeling those normal human feelings, but you have the ability to change how you're thinking and what you're thinking and why you're thinking that. I'm no guru. I'm no teacher. I just know that one thing is true. You have the ability. We have the ability. And so I'm here to remind you of that as well. Okay, that's it. Don't let them own you. Don't let them take over. Find your joy, find your peace, find your happiness, write in a journal, connect with other people you care about, do nice things for folks, meditate, exercise, and get outside if it's not too freezing or outside isn't on fire. All right, that's it. That's my PSA for today, this morning. And I do it on the record as much for me as I do for you. Stand up. I'm so happy to have you joining me. Unfortunately, you're the only one. I don't have a guest today. Both of my guests that I had scheduled to interview yesterday canceled, and I had 3 other appointments and my daughter's birthday last night, so I was unable to tape an interview with a guest, but I'm still going to post a show because I had pulled a whole bunch of audio clips. I want to do the news, and frankly, I'd just like to be here with you. So I've got your headlines and your clips. I don't have any particular great good stuff this morning to share with you other than I'm here with you and my opening PSA. But I did do the work of putting together headlines and clips for you, and I want to share that. I want to be here with you and for you as I am pretty much every day. So let's get after it. And I thought the best way to open was the New York Times characterization of yesterday. I thought was very good, so covers a lot. Here it is briefly. Attorneys general from 22 states sued President Trump today to block a new executive order he signed declaring that children born to undocumented immigrants would no longer be treated as citizens. You know, that's the whole thing where he just decided to overturn the 14th Amendment with an executive order that he signed at a tiny little desk on a stage. The order would extend even to the children of some mothers who are in the country legally but temporary, such as foreign students. The states argued that the order violated the 14th Amendment, which courts have long interpreted to guarantee citizenship to every baby born in the U.S. The lawsuit is just the beginning of what is expected to be a long legal battle over the president's crackdown on immigration. Trump also directed the military to play a role in border control, which legal experts said would clash with the law. At the border, migrants realized they now have very few options. By the way, just a thought experiment, what would happen if the president of the United States sent in a special forces SEAL team or some other special forces fast action team in helicopters to assassinate or kill or capture some kind of drug kingpin? What would the authorities of that Central, South American, or Mexican country do? I mean, what would be the repercussions? I really do actually wonder that. Honest question. Well, dozens of other executive orders signed by Trump in his first day blitz have also begun to reverberate around the country, the New York Times says. Trade policy experts scramble to understand Trump's tariff plans. Automakers confronted an assault on their electric vehicle programs, and the wind power industry faced potentially crippling restrictions. And all of those issues should be talked about and unpacked with guests, and that's what I plan to do here on this show. At an interfaith service yesterday in Washington, a bishop urged Trump to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now, specifically naming LGBTQ people, immigrants, children, and people fleeing war zones. That got a lot of attention. I'll play you the audio of that afterward. Trump, back at the White House, appeared unmoved, telling reporters, It wasn't very exciting, was it? I didn't like it. I'll try not to play his voice very much on the show, but from time to time, I think I'm going to have to. I don't have any of it today, though. Don't worry. Now, going into the specific stories, obviously, I think the biggest one yesterday was, well, the biggest distraction was Elon Musk's Nazi salute. But the biggest story that was most important, of course, was the reaction to the disgraceful, sweeping legal reprieve that Trump issued nearly 1,600 people in charge with connection of the January 6, 2021 attacks on the Capitol. Some of the defendants had their cases dismissed. Others, including two of the country's most prominent far-right extremists from the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers, they were released. Trump's decision to issue blanket clemency spurred criticism, rare criticism, even from a couple of Senate Republicans that weren't his supplicants. But they all need to be asked about it every day, forever. They need to be asked about it. Do not ask them about it if you have access. Write a letter, make a phone call, asking why they are okay with this or why they're not speaking out against it. Several Capitol police officers, of course, expressed outrage. Michael Fanone, who I've gotten to know over the past couple of years, I've got a really powerful clip of him coming up. He was on CNN last night. In other political news, Pete Hegseth's former sister-in-law made a sworn statement to senators that the Secretary of Defense nominee was abusive towards his second wife. Trump is expected to announce a joint venture between three companies to create at least $100 billion in AI computing infrastructure. He also installed new key leaders at the U.S. Attorney's offices. Marco Rubio was sworn in as Secretary of State and immediately went to work abolishing and trying to demolish foreign aid to make lives worse in foreign countries and make diplomacy harder for himself. At the same time, got to dig into that story. The Commandant of the U.S. Coast Guard, the first woman to lead a branch of the armed forces, guess what? She was fired. Yeah, that's right. Trump fired her yesterday, as is his right to do, and as is perfectly on brand for him to do it. And in a moment of rare criticism, the new and old president, our convicted felon president, declared that President Vladimir Putin was, quote, destroying Russia by waging war in Ukraine. So that was an interesting statement by Trump yesterday. And a judge stopped the Justice Department from releasing the special counsel's report on Trump's documents case. So I guess we're not going to see part of that or any of that. That's the one on the documents case, not on January 6th, which we did see. Israel began a military operation in the West Bank, conducting raids in the city of Jenin. 8 people were killed, dozens injured in the first hours of operation. So much for the ceasefire, I guess. Israel's military chief said he would resign, citing in part the failure to protect Israelis during the October 7 attacks. So that was an interesting development yesterday. It snowed on the Gulf Coast. That was a pretty weird story to see. Those of you down in New Orleans, including Maura Quint, who was down there visiting. A winter storm hit the southern U.S. yesterday, bringing significant snowfall to a region where even light flurries are rare. Houston, which has no snowplows, essentially just shut down as many residents reacted with glee. New Orleans received its first significant snow in 15 years, and they were sledding in Atlanta as well. The Gulf storm is part of an intense blast of Arctic air sweeping across the country this week. Wind chills of minus 37 were recorded in parts of Iowa. I hope my friends up north are okay, and we're freezing right here in New York along with you as well. And in other news, a fire at a hotel at a popular ski resort killed 76 people in the country of Turkey. In Kiev, Ukraine said they detained 3 former commanders who were blamed for the loss of territory last spring. Supreme Court said a woman on death row could challenge her trial because prosecutors may have erred by introducing lurid evidence about her sexual activities. Amazon, JP Morgan, and AT&T have told many employees they would have to be back in the office 5 days a week this year. Federal workers are next, but will their bosses want to come back? Because a lot of times bosses don't actually work, middle managers in the office, and so they're not going to report their employees if they don't report them. Well, I'm interested to see what happens with your company, so drop me a line on that. In 2023, Google said it would no longer restrict advertisers from using trademarks that belong to other organizations. Well, apparently charities have paid the price for that, according to the New York Times. In one of its final acts, the Biden administration secured the release of 2 Americans held in Afghanistan through a prisoner swap. The chair of the Minnesota Democrats, Ken Martin, has emerged as a heavy favorite to lead the Democratic National Committee. I'm interested in learning more about that guy. And those are the headlines that I've compiled for you today, Wednesday, the 22nd of January. Now it's time to get to some of the clips, and I've got a lot of those as well. First, I thought this was a very powerful conversation between Anderson Cooper and Michael Fanone. Cooper does a pretty good job at keeping himself out of it, asking the right questions, and letting Fanone be Michael Fanone. I know this guy. I like this guy, and his story is absolutely tragic, but I think it's very important and worth hearing. And I wish everybody in law enforcement would hear this and argue and defend Michael Fanone the same way they do so many other police officers. Here it is.
Michael, I appreciate you being with us. I'm wondering when you heard the news and what's going through your mind tonight?
I just heard the news from your producers a few moments ago. I mean, the only thing that that's going through my mind right now is that this is what the American people voted for. Donald Trump has been promising these pardons ever since he announced his candidacy in Waco, Texas, the scene of one of the most notorious battles between American law enforcement and the American extremist movement that resulted in the death of numerous law enforcement officers. Thanks, America.
This feels like a betrayal to you.
Oh, I have been betrayed by my country. Rest assured, I have been betrayed by my country, and I've been betrayed by those that supported Donald Trump. Whether you voted for him because he promised these pardons or for some other reason, you knew that this was coming, and here we are. Tonight, 6 individuals who assaulted me as I did my job on January 6th, as did hundreds of other law enforcement officers, will now walk free. 6 individuals who have threatened my life and who have made threats towards my family members, as well as countless other January 6th defendants who have threatened me because they see me as a spokesperson for law enforcement for this event. My family, my children, and myself are less safe today because of Donald Trump and his supporters.
When you hear the president of the United States, Donald Trump, talking about back the blue, or his supporters saying that they back the blue, you don't buy that?
No political party supports law enforcement. That's just a fact. Political parties support public safety, but they don't support police officers, and they don't understand the sacrifices that we make on behalf of the American people. That's been my experience as a 20-year career law enforcement officer in a major metropolitan city in this country. That being said, right now, I think that the Republican Party owns a monopoly on hypocrisy when it comes to supporting or their supposed support of law enforcement. Because tonight, the leader of the Republican Party pardoned hundreds of violent cop assaulters.
You were pardoned today, and we should know President Biden said it was not for committing a crime, it was for stepping forward to testify about January 6th. Did you know about that in advance? What do you think about that? And are you concerned for the safety of your family now?
I had no communication with the White House or anyone else, for that matter, regarding a potential pardon or presidential pardon. I mean, all I can say is that I think it's a sad commentary on where we are as a nation that a sitting president thought it necessary to issue a preemptive pardon to a witness in a congressional investigation, because the subject of that investigation is now the president, and it promised to pursue politically motivated revenge. Again, it's just more examples of the outrageous behavior of the current president of the United States. As far as concerned for my family and my family's safety. I've been concerned for myself and my family's safety ever since I testified before Congress. If you remember, I didn't even make it through my congressional testimony before I received my first threat from a member of the American public who called me and threatened my life literally as I was giving testimony. And those threats have continued to this day against both myself and members of my family. In recent months, my mother has been swatted, a 76-year-old woman who's guilty of nothing other than having a son, a police officer who responded to the Capitol on January 6th. And she's also had human feces thrown on her while she was raking leaves in her front yard. This is who we are as a nation. This is what we have become, and it has been further exacerbated by Donald Trump. As I've said many times before, we are self-centered, we are violent, and we are indifferent to the suffering of our neighbors.
Wow. 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 Michael Fanone telling it like it is, or at least like it is to him. There are so many, frighteningly large percentage of Americans and people around the world who absolutely are that way. But I would push back, not all of us. And so his description of America and Americans certainly does seem accurate for a lot of people, but these things are complex. But that was obviously hard to hear and totally shocking and disgusting to learn what people had done to his mother, but also completely unsurprising, and all as a result of this one man doing something that almost nobody else I can imagine ever doing. First of all, lying about the election, creating the movement that was the insurrection, telling everybody to go up to the Capitol, not stopping it, and then pardoning them when he got the power to do it again because he somehow escaped persecution, real persecution himself, and was reelected. That's the timeline. That's the story that we are living in, and it's maddening. But don't let them take your sanity, your joy. You can't. There have been times like this, not just like this, but people have made it through. People are making it through in circumstances tougher than ours. So let's stay connected to each other and to reality. And now I am moving on to more clips. This one I thought was really important. I mentioned it. You probably heard about it, but it's a pretty big deal from a political perspective. A highly memorable sermon yesterday at the inaugural prayer service. This happens at every inauguration. Well, you've got the Episcopal Bishop of Washington, Right Reverend Marianne Buddha, I think her name is, Buddha. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it. Well, she made a direct appeal to President Donald Trump to have mercy on the LGBTQ community and undocumented migrant workers. She referenced Trump's belief that he was saved by God from assassination. She said, well, here it is.
I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives. And the people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meatpacking plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals, they may not be citizens or have the proper documentation. But the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. They pay taxes and are good neighbors. They are faithful members of our churches and mosques, synagogues, wadara, and temples.
Well, a real shiro. Bishop Marian Edgar Buddha is the Christian that Franklin Graham failed to be. I saw somebody wrote she's a perfect role model for all of us, and a big round of applause for that woman and everything that she said. I think that was very important for her to say it right to their faces as they smirked and looked down on her and criticized her. she brought it. And I think that's very, very important. Talk about speaking truth to power. Man, it's like 8 feet away. All right. Now I've got something else very important. This is the scholar from Yale, historian Timothy Snyder, was on with Rachel Maddow, and he had this education and warning for us, which is always important. We love Tim Snyder, right?
One of the things that you warned about in On Tyranny was the marriage of paramilitary force with the state. That you said when a leader essentially can activate not only the power of the state, but also an unofficial paramilitary force that is loyal to him, but that is deniable, that can do things that the government doesn't have to answer for. But that's among the most dangerous situations that an authoritarian can create. Can you elaborate why you think that is, and does that relate to today's commutations and pardons?
So the basic legal function of the police is to allow the law to be enforced. And of course, we make mistakes. Police officers make mistakes. It's imperfect. But that's the logic. The reason why the police are allowed to use violence is that we are governed by law. When you take another group that's not the police, which is not part of the state, which is not governed by law, and say this group can also use violence, then you've changed the nature of the political regime that you're living under. There's maybe still the police, but then there are these other people who aren't the police who may also hurt you or kill you, and they're not governed by law. And then there's a history to this, which is that if these groups are created, if they're allowed, for example, to oversee camps, which we might well see very soon, then they get a habit, they get a taste, they get a certain set of skills, and then they get more and more interesting for them and more ambitious assignments and become more and more important in the society. So the next step is that you're going to see, I'm afraid, these people be deputized for tasks like deportation, or these people to be regularized, normalized as part of the way that we get used to violence being deployed in our country. And then we're no longer pretending that we're a country of law. And as you already said, the problem with what's already happened is that these people have been instructed now that the law doesn't apply to them in the same way that it applies to everyone else.
Professor Snyder, what would you say to people who are feeling what I think was intended for us to feel today, which is a sort of they use the term shock and awe, as if that worked out well in Iraq, I know. But the idea, and they told us they were going to do this in advance, was to do so much on day one and to do so many things that they knew would be demoralizing and scary to the country that people would feel overwhelmed, exhausted, and too either afraid or intimidated to try to do anything to stand up against it. People who are experiencing those feelings right now are feeling really worried or afraid about what's going on. What would you say to them about how to stand up for their country?
Yeah, I mean, number one, we should be aware that movements within this country, like the civil rights movement, and movements outside of this country, pro-democracy movements, regularly succeed. They regularly are in moments like this, troughs like this, valleys like this, where it feels terrible, and yet nevertheless they can succeed. The second thing to remember is that this is how they want to make you feel. They want to make you feel alone. They want to make you feel powerless. They want to make you feel overwhelmed by the airplanes in the sky and by the angles of the photos of Trump and by the gestures that Elon Musk makes and so on. They want to make you feel that way. So catch yourself before you do. And the third thing is, if you act, especially if you act with other people you admire, who you think are doing good things, you're going to feel better. If you do the little things that you can do, you can catch yourself before you start being dismayed. So and the other thing is, these guys have problems, right? There are divisions between the fascists who are trying to use the oligarchs and the oligarchs who are trying to use the fascists. Virtually all of the MAGA voters' interests are going to go unrepresented in this government of oligarchs. It's going to be hard for them to do many of the things they want to do. An international strategy of alienating your friends and placating your enemies is going to have costs. These things aren't all going to work out. We've just seen a one-day honeymoon, and after that, we're going to see how this marriage of all of these various different types of authoritarian interests actually works. And there will be openings. There will be openings for protesters, for civil society. There will certainly be openings for Democrats in the next 6 months, but you have to have your head up and look for those openings.
Yes, keep your head up and look for those openings and let me know where you see them and where they are. Timothy Snyder, Yale professor, on with Rachel Maddow. I thought that was an important lesson, and I wanted to share that with you. See, when I don't have a guest, I bring a lot of clips, good clips, sometimes a little longer clips. That's what I'll do in the future if this happens again. It rarely does. All right. Well, one of my favorite guests and expert analysts is JL Cauvin. He was just on the show a couple of days ago. I think it was the Monday show, right? Yeah, that's right. And he posted a little commentary about the Elon Musk Nazi salute, which I think is worth listening to. Again, earlier I said it's a distraction, and it is, but it's important to unpack. We just can't let it be the most important thing of the day or of our lives, though this really is a pretty big deal and should be the end of him. It's not. JL, take it away.
So the big news after day one of Trump's second administration, despite all his horrific executive orders, is Elon Musk making what appeared to be a Nazi salute. Now you have people like Ben Shapiro, that little weasel, sort of going, "You idiots. Like, look, here's a picture of me with Elon Musk. Therefore, he can't be an anti-Semite." It's the same logic of, like, Trump once masturbated to roots, so therefore he can't be a racist. But it's just interesting how short-sighted people are, and this isn't going to be a funny video. I think we've become sort of a joke. It's a scary joke, but it's a joke nonetheless. Kind of like a Sam Raimi horror film. That's sort of what America is now. It's like gross and terrifying, but also sort of funny if you just kind of watch it. And people seem to forget, like earlier this month, Musk endorsed the Alternative for Germany party, which is like a far-right party that's like downplayed the Holocaust and said other crazy things like this. So my only thing is, it probably was a Nazi salute. Like, but this idea of blaming his autism for his awkwardness, it's like, does autism also cause you to endorse far-right parties in Germany? Was that also his? Because I have a nephew who's autistic, and he's never sort of, supported racist parties in foreign countries. He's never even accidentally done a Hitler salute. So with Musk being worth $400 billion and being a quote-unquote genius to the sort of sad, diminished party of white, pathetic people, MAGA. How do you explain that? How do you, he's awkward. That's why he made a Hitler salute. Okay, so he's awkward. Was it the awkwardness that caused him to endorse a far-right German party also? Now, I know, everybody, that was like 2 weeks ago. That's ancient history. But if we can't even be honest, we can't. What am I saying if we can't? We can't be honest. We live in bubbles, and the bubbles are getting more absurd because Elon Musk, if it quacks like a guy from apartheid South Africa, and it looks like, well, an alien, to be honest, but a racist from South Africa who supports far-right German parties, then maybe he is a weirdo, sure, awkward, yes, but also maybe a bigot and a piece of shit. Just something to think about, but, this is all, like, we can't focus on stories like this. I know it's horrible to say that, but just, Trump and his minions are going to do a million horrible things every week. Let's just try to prioritize. But Elon Musk, he's shown himself to be a piece of shit. Who are we kidding?
Yes, JL, well said. Go watch his new YouTube special. Inauguration is my favorite N-word on YouTube at JL Cauvin. Very, very good, I think, analysis from him. And let's stick with the theme of very smart comedians who do great commentary. Trey Crowder was in his car again, and we love Trey. I play every one of these kind of car rants. Take it away.
Break out the whiskey and grab your favorite screaming pillar, y'all. Donald Trump is officially the president again. And his second inauguration was everything we've come to expect from the man, a rambling tribute to his own greatness, punctuated by vague and sweeping promises that inspire either throbbing freedom boners or suffocating existential dread, depending on how good your brain works. The whole thing was bookended by two very symbolic moments. Our first, legions of Trump faithful who made the pilgrimage to be there and honor their beloved Tater King in person were literally left out in the cold at the last minute as the man they all believe is their savior happily screwed them all over without a second's thought rather than face even a minor and temporary inconvenience to himself. As devoted followers made to watch their big moment on a screen while billionaire oligarchs who collect politicians like Pokemon were given front row seats in the warmth of the inner chamber. It's pretty poetic. Yeah, Trump started his speech by saying this is the beginning of an American golden age, and that might be true. These might be golden years for America. Yeah, like, you know how like your grandpa's golden years were spent hollering a bunch of nonsensical and offensive shit while lashing out in futility at the inevitable finality of doom? Yeah, these could be those kind of golden years, I don't know. What I do know is all the MAGA people in your life loved that speech. They loved it because he said a bunch of shit that sounds great if you're dumb and wrong about things. He did. He said this country doesn't work for regular people. It favors a few bad actors at the expense of everyone else, and that's true. If you're talking about the billionaires bleeding working people dry, praise Luigi, right? But that's not what he's talking about. He's talking about phantom immigrants who, poop in CVS's and make stir fry out of Shih Tzus and stuff. That's what he means, and it all sounds great if you don't care about things like making any sense at all. Right, like he said, he's gonna beat inflation like it hasn't been under control for months now. Anyway, also we all know all these people have spent the last couple years acting like Joe Biden has us all out here farming dust and standing in bread lines and shit. All those people are going to be jerking off Trump's booming economy before the end of the week, dude. Making sense is over in this country. He said he would keep us out of any unnecessary wars. Also, we're going to invade Panama because that's what William McKinley would have wanted. Or something. He said, we're going to drill, baby, drill. So now when entire coastal communities sink into the encroaching ocean, at least they'll be part of the Gulf of America instead of Mexico. So that's nice. The whole time he framed himself as a dogged hero of the people. He said, I was saved by God to make America great again. Which, to be fair, that does seem like some shit God would do. I mean, we all know the good die young and hate will keep you going forever, right? So thanks for that one, God. Yeah, it was terrible right up until the very end. I said it was bookended by two symbolic moments. Well, when Trump's big closing tirade about how awesome he is and how much America rules and he rules, and now that he's back, everything's going to rule even harder than it's ever ruled before. When that moment was followed immediately by them all standing around in awkward silence as his staff failed to address a sound system issue that the stagehands in my son's middle school drama program could have fixed, I almost dared to dream again. Perhaps there is some joy out there. God help us all. Love-yins.
Yeah. Trey Crowder. Always good stuff from him. And we love Wajid Ali, of course. He's doing a new show over at Mehdi Hassan's media outfit called Zeteo. Rather, the new show is America Unhinged, Trump's first 100 days. His co-host Francesca and Mehdi Hassan both joined him. I thought I'd give you a little preview of this because we love Waj. They were talking about the pardons. I think Waj is talking about the guy Stuart Rhodes from Oath Keepers as he starts his commentary here.
This man was in jail for sedition, folks. They were very clear about it. They wrote about it. They were very open about their manifesto and their desires. So the fact that he was on day one of President Trump's presidency when he promised, I will no longer, I will take back America from being angry, violent, and chaotic. He releases an angry, violent man. And not only that, if he does pardon or issue blanket pardons to January 6th violent insurrectionists, this is what he's saying. If you're my violent mob, I got your back. There's no penalty for violence against my enemies, whom he called the enemy from within, quoting Hitler. This is going to be a recurring theme. And by the way, you have my back, I have your back. You can do whatever you want. It's free reign for violence against all my enemies, which is why I'm glad you're talking about it and you're not glossing over it as one of the many breaking news hits.
To be fair to CNN, Waj, they just did an interview. I just watched before I came on air. Aaron Burnett did an interview with the son of one of these January 6 rioters who reported his own father to the FBI. And that's how his father got caught, arrested, convicted. He's now worried for his oon safety. He said, I had to buy a gun. He may have to move house because he's worried his dad may come after him. These are the kind of people who's Trump pardoning. He's not even pretending just to pardon the non-violent folks, the over-enthused Trump supporters who accidentally walked into the Capitol on January 6th. That would have been bad enough. He's actually pardoning Proud Boys. And I want to say to you, Francesca, the Proud Boy story is a big story. The climate change story is a big story. National emergency is a big story. His second speech tonight, where he went out and rambled on about January the 6th and Nancy Pelosi and others, is a big story. All of that, and we'll come to that, I hope, but all of that ultimately will be overshadowed by one thing that happened today, which is that his top advisor, his biggest donor, his biggest supporter, the world's richest man, did a Nazi salute. Like a Nazi salute to most people in the middle of the Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C. And he did so not once, Francesca, twice.
That, I think, is really key. I think that when people see it for the first time, they're like, okay, he's an awkward guy. I don't know. He didn't know how to say hello to the crowd. He did it twice. He did it forcefully. He did it deliberately. Same angle. And we are in a moment right now where mainstream news is kind of normalizing it. This is a controversial gesture. Did it mean, are we dissecting the hand gestures and all this? And it's like, and I think the reality is, what would it mean if we all admitted that yes, that was in fact a Nazi salute. That yes, there are white nationalists and Nazi sympathizers and Holocaust deniers who've just been pardoned. What would it mean for this country to truly admit that we have a Nazi sympathizer as president? I think for some people, they cannot compute that that our precious democracy might just be this close to loving fascists and loving cruelty and genocide. And I think for those of us who've smelled the smelling salts already, or those of us who are come from, histories and countries that have also been in the crosshairs of that makes perfect sense. So yeah, the biggest threat to this country, as we found out from Christopher Wray said, was coming from homegrown terrorists. I mean, he just let out all these would-be mass shooters. And I think it is very significant.
Yeah. A lot of really interesting points. I thought that was great. And we love Waj, so I wanted to promote that for him. Go check that out over on YouTube. Zateo, the First 100 Days, America Unhinged has launched. That was cool. And now I want to play for you. I've got Bernie Sanders. He's keeping his eye on the ball. And apparently everybody's got a channel. Everybody's got a show, even including senators and congressmen. And that's probably a good thing because they want to get their word out. And if it's not being amplified because, people want to talk with Bernie about the top stories like the pardons or Elon Musk's salute or whatever. Well, Bernie wants to talk about healthcare. And I think that's good. So he did. He went on and made this 7-minute video, and he talked about other things as well. But I just grabbed these first couple minutes where he's keeping his eye, his voice, his platform trained on an issue that affects all of us.
I was at the Trump inauguration yesterday, and needless to say, I disagree with much of what he had to say. But what really struck me, however, is not what he said, which was not surprising given his rhetoric, but what he didn't say. The simple truth is that Donald Trump gave a major speech, the first speech of his second presidency, and ignored virtually every important issue facing the working families of this country. How crazy is that? Our healthcare system is broken, is dysfunctional, and it's wildly expensive. Not one word from Trump about how he is going to address the healthcare crisis. We pay by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, sometimes 10 times more than the people in other countries. And 1 out of 4 Americans are unable to afford the prescriptions that their doctors prescribe. Not one word in his speech on the high cost of prescription drugs. We have 800,000 Americans who are homeless and millions of people spending 50 or 60% of their limited income on housing. We have a major housing crisis in America. Everybody knows it. And Trump, in his inaugural address, did not devote one word to it.
Well, we're glad that you did, Senator Sanders. Thank you very much. Good stuff. And watch that whole 7 minutes, I think. A lot of it. I probably should have played the whole thing. But I want to get to another senator. This is Scott Murphy. He is questioning Trump's nominee for the UN, the U.S. ambassador to the UN. It's a big role. It's a very, very important job. And Elise Stefanik is a Trump sycophant. She's a congresswoman representing way upstate New York around the Adirondacks, the Capital District. I used to always see her signs up there when I drop the girls off for camp and wonder, do you guys have any idea who you're supporting? They might not. Their big concern was guns up there and how many bullets they can have in a clip and shit like that. Anyway, well, here she is being questioned hard by Chris Murphy about Elon Musk, about anti-Semitism, and she disgraces herself, of course, but I thought Senator Murphy did a good and important thing here.
What do you think of Elon Musk, perhaps the president's most visible advisor, doing 2 Heil Hitler salutes last night at the president's televised rally?
No, Elon Musk did not do those salutes. I was not at the rally, but I can tell you I've been at many rallies with Elon Musk, who loves to cheer when President Trump says we need to send, our U.S. space program to Mars. Elon Musk is a visionary. I'm looking forward to his work in DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, and look forward to looking how we can be more efficient and effective. But that is simply not the case. And to say so is the American people are smart. They see through it. they support Elon Musk. We are proud to be the country of such successful entrepreneurs. That is one of our greatest strengths as Americans.
So let me share with you what a few Americans have said about it. Evan Kilgore, a right-wing political commentator, wrote on X, "Holy crap, did Elon Musk just Heil Hitler at the Trump inauguration rally? This is incredible. We are so back." Andrew Torba, who's the founder of the right-wing Christian nationalist social platform Gab, said incredible things are happening as he amplified the visual. The Proud Boys chapter in Ohio posted the clip on its Telegram channel with the text "Heil Trump." A chapter of the white nationalist group White Lives Matter posted it on Telegram. "Thanks for hearing us, Elon. The white flame will rise again." I could keep going. Over and over last night, white supremacist groups and neo-Nazi groups in this country rallied around that visual. Does it concern you that those elements of the neo-Nazi and white supremacist element in the United States believe that what they saw last night was a neo-Nazi salute?
What concerns me is these are the questions you believe are most important to ask to the UN ambassador. I have a very strong record when it comes to combating anti-Semitism. We just had a historic election where President Trump earned historic support from American voters because of his strong leadership combating anti-Semitism, which has been a scourge across the country, skyrocketing since October 7th. So I intend to bring moral clarity to this position and continue to speak out as a voice, as a beacon of light, condemning anti-Semitism at the United Nations, which is representative of President Trump's record and President Trump's promises that he made on the campaign trail.
You are right. These are the questions I choose to ask because I think that your work and the administration's work on anti-Semitism only comes with real impact and credibility if it holds both right and left accountable. I simply don't believe that if a member of the squad made that same gesture last night, that there wouldn't be commentary from you and others. So I want to make sure that our work has credibility, and credibility comes with calling anti-Semitism and anti-Semitism behavior out when it comes from both the right and the left.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much, Senator Murphy. Good work. How about this one? Did you hear about this one? A Danish politician told off Donald Trump, said, Greenland is not for sale. I thought this was great. It went viral last night. And now Anders Vistisen, who's a Danish member of European Parliament, is probably going to have to be concerned about his family's security. But still, here it is.
Dear President Trump, listen very carefully. Greenland has been part of the Danish kingdom for 800 years. It's an integrated part of our country. It is not for sale. Let me put it in words you might understand. Mr. Trump, f*** off.
It is not okay in this house of democracy. Thank you. Regardless of what we think of Mr. Trump, it is not possible to use such language.
Well, it sounds like it is possible, and it sounds like he just did, but it's not good. It's not right. He got reprimanded. He got scolded for it, and he did it anyway. All right, well, we'll see what happens to that guy. Now, finally, for you, I've got some laughs brought to us by ABC's Jimmy Kimmel on Jimmy Kimmel Live last night. He is definitely not backing down, making fun of Trump. I'd worried a little bit about that because he works for ABC Disney, and I wasn't sure if they were going to. But I think people know this guy well enough, Jimmy Kimmel, to know that they can't curb his criticism and jokes about Donald Trump. And if they did, he would simply quit. And I'm pretty sure everybody who knows Jimmy Kimmel is aware of that, and he's widely respected by his company and in his industry, I can tell you that. So here he is, not backing down.
We are on day 2 of another round with President Donald Jocelyn Trump. Only 1,459 days to go. It's been 24 hours since he was sworn in. Already Donald Trump has ended the war in Ukraine on day 1, just as he promised he would. Oh, he didn't? Well, he should resign then, right? I mean, we are in a very weird, precarious time in the history of our country. Half of us are worried Trump won't do the things he promised. The other half are worried he will do those things. I'm in the latter category. We're not even a day in. He's already done so many terrible deeds. But he's also done some fun things, like when he said this, and I want you to listen closely here, because the question is, does he say every day we get some penis?
Every single day we get subpoenas.
Yeah, that's it. That's what he said. Every day we get some. Let's listen to that one more time.
Every single day we get subpoenas.
Well, that was his campaign promise, a penis in every pot. As is tradition for every incoming president, Trump has a new portrait. He posed for this menacing photo. It goes up at every post office, every airport. That spray tan scowl will be glaring at you every time a TSA worker frisks your junk from now on. The new regime has already redecorated the Oval Office. They moved in a bust of Winston Churchill, a portrait of Andrew Jackson, and this was smart. They put plastic covers on the couch in case J.D. Vance gets a little too lovey-dovey. Trump's infamous Diet Coke button is back. He's also got, this time he's got a chalupa cannon and a McNugget knob, too. And he has another little button to lock the door when he hears Elon coming. Elon Musk reportedly badgered Trump into giving him an office in the West Wing. It's kind of a tough situation for Trump because, on the one hand, you know he can't stand this guy. On the other hand, he needs his money. It's what they call a Melania's dilemma.
All right, there you go. Jimmy Kimmel last night on ABC. All right, well, that's what I've put together for you for today's program. What did you think? I've got your headlines and your clips. That's what we did today. That was more than a few hours' work, that's for sure. So hopefully you're still listening and liked what I did. If you don't, say, Pete, don't waste your time. Come on. I'm here for the guests. Well, I'll be back later today and tomorrow. I've got some great guests joining me, including scheduled to talk to Keith Boykin, scheduled to talk to Sam Youngman and Dr. Jason Johnson. We'll see if they all come through, and hopefully that'll be the case. Keith Boykin for the first time. Always trying to bring you new voices, as well as many that are familiar to you that you've learned to trust, that I have as well, with credibility, and some that you might disagree with, giving plenty of different points of views. That's my goal moving forward, trying to do a better job about that as well. All right, I want to hear from you, so reach out. If you've never emailed me, if you listen to the show and you've never contacted me, maybe today's the day. I'll read it. Say, I've never contacted you in the subject, and I promise you I'll get back to you. I'm sure I won't be inundated, right? standupwithpete@gmail.com. For you bumblebees listening all the way to the end, I am grateful. I hope you'll all go get PODJAM tickets. We haven't sold enough PODJAM tickets, and I really want there to be a lot of folks there. So please go do that now so we can make sure that it happens. I mean, I'm going no matter what. So I'll see you in Vegas, March 28th through 30th. It's going to be a great 3-day experience, and I hope to see you at tomorrow night's Hangout as well. But that's it. I will talk to you tomorrow. Find your joy, find your peace, do the things that matter, keep your sanity. I'll be right here with you along the ride. And so will Jon Carroll, who writes and performs all of the music for the show. Take it away, John.